The storm roared as if summoned by some unsettled force. Midnight rain hammered the sprawling glass walls of the Cole estate, each thunderclap sending electric jolts across the dark sky. Headlights cut through the deluge, illuminating the sleek marble driveway as Adrian Cole, exhausted from a 16-hour business trip, maneuvered his SUV to a halt. A jagged piece of glass glittered under the porch light, possibly from an ornate window pane shattered by the raging wind. Adrian paused, his brow furrowed. A broken piece of glass, just great. He bent down, picked it up, and felt the edges. For him, glass was more than a mere window. It was his life's work, reinforced, transparent, mesmerizing. Finding it in shards felt like an omen. Shaking off the uneasy thought, Adrian stepped inside, water dripping from the collar of his tailored suit. The foyer lights flickered as lightning arced beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then he saw her. Vanessa Cole, his wife, stood near the largest window overlooking the storm-soaked gardens. She held her phone close to her chest. The screen's blue glow illuminated her face, revealing wide eyes that darted from the phone to Adrian, then back again. "You're home earlier than I expected," she said, her voice subdued but laced with tension. "I caught an earlier flight," Adrian replied, shaking off his wet jacket. He glanced at her phone. The faint light of an unread message flickered, then disappeared as she locked the screen. Just then the stairway creaked. Miles, their 19-year-old son, stopped halfway down the steps. He froze at the sight of his father, 1,000 unspoken words passing in a split second. Neither father nor son offered a greeting. In the hush, a low rumble of thunder vibrated the glass walls. Miles turned on his heel and disappeared upstairs, footsteps echoing in the hallway. Lightning lit the foyer like a photographer's flash. Adrian caught the hint of worry in Vanessa's eyes, the same worry that always appeared when she sensed he knew more than he let on. Beyond them, at the top of the stairs, Celia peeked out from behind the banister. At 17, she had a knack for reading the family's tension like a forensic scientist, quiet and perceptive. Adrian set the shard of glass on the foyer table. He could hear the wind howling, rattling the enormous windows. He nodded at Vanessa's phone. "Who texted you this late?" Vanessa clenched the device in her hand. "No one important, just some leftover detail about a charity meeting." The flicker in her eyes said otherwise. Lightning flashed again, reflecting off Adrian's dark hair and the taut lines of his face. For a moment, the entire house plunged into a hush, as if bracing for a confrontation. Instead, Adrian inhaled, forcing composure. He was used to reading people, business partners, colleagues, even city officials. But reading Vanessa in that moment felt like staring into murky glass. A surge of wind battered the exterior. The overhead chandelier flickered, then steadied. Adrian stepped closer to Vanessa, scanning her expression. The storm raged outside, but inside, a silent tempest was brewing. "Vanessa," he said, voice low and firm. "I asked who texted you." She gripped the phone harder, her knuckles going white. "I told you it's nobody, and do we really have to do this now? You're drenched, tired." His gaze hardened. "I'm tired, yes. Tired of things not adding up." Before Vanessa could respond, lightning blazed once more. The power blinked out for a second, plunging the hallway into darkness. Only the glow of her phone illuminated their faces. Then, with a faint buzz, the lights came back on, revealing the frustration etched on Adrian's features. She swallowed, looking away. "It's late. We should probably talk in the morning." Adrian fought the urge to press her further. Instead, he scooped up the jagged glass piece from the table. "Fine, but we will talk." Vanessa said nothing. She brushed past him, heading for the stairs. He watched her ascend, each step slow and deliberate. A gust of wind made the windows shudder. Finally, Adrian turned off the foyer lights, letting the storm's natural strobe cast wild patterns across the marble floor. From the second-floor landing, Celia still watched in silence, her heart pounding. She had never seen her father's eyes so cold, nor her mother's so on edge. Something about the way Miles had vanished without a word also unsettled her. Tonight, the entire house felt like it was perched on the brink of a revelation. Adrian Cole stood in the darkness for a long moment, the wet outline of his shoes marking a trail on the polished floor. In his hand, the broken glass glistened, an unsettling metaphor for what was happening beneath his own roof. Finally, he set it down again, exhaled, and headed upstairs to his study. If he was going to unravel the truth, he would need more than a single shard. Outside, thunder shook the sky like a giant's growl, and inside, in the hush of a massive home built on glass and ambition, one question echoed, "Who is texting my wife, and why does it feel like the entire foundation of our life is about to crack?" Morning arrived in a haze of damp air and scattered clouds. The violent storm had swept through, leaving only puddles and broken branches across the coal estate. Yet for Adrian, the atmosphere remained tense. Every creak in the house, every beep of a phone seemed to carry a hidden message. In the driveway, two workers in reflective vests unloaded ladders and glass panes from their truck. Adrian watched from the kitchen window as they approached the damaged portion of the exterior. The memory of last night's drama lingered. He took a slow sip of black coffee, trying to steady his mind. Devlin Price, longtime friend and district attorney, had called earlier, sounding intrigued and concerned. They were supposed to meet for breakfast to discuss something important. Usually, Adrian expected these calls to focus on local politics or construction permits. But the tone in Devlin's voice suggested otherwise. He placed his mug in the sink and headed to the foyer, where Vaughn Trace, head of Cole Architectural Security, waited. Vaughn's posture straight-backed, arms folded, spoke of a man always ready to act. "Morning, Mr. Cole," Vaughn said, dipping his head slightly. "Everything okay after last night's storm?" Adrian nodded. "Storm's done, but I have a different concern. I'd like you to discreetly check phone logs, see if any unusual numbers have been contacting my wife, and perhaps my son, too." Vaughn raised a brow, his voice low. "Is there a security threat?" "Potentially," Adrian muttered, the word sounding bitter on his lips. "Or it might just be personal. Either way, I want to be sure." He took a step back, scanning the corridor for any sign of eavesdroppers. "Vanessa's phone has been lit up with messages at odd hours, and I suspect Miles is—" He paused. "How much should I reveal?" "Mixed up with someone I don't fully trust yet." Vaughn nodded. "Understood. I'll handle it carefully." A car horn sounded outside, breaking the tension. Adrian grabbed his keys and left Vaughn behind, stepping out into the crisp morning. Devlin Price waited in a Navy sedan, engine humming softly. "Good to see you, Adrian," Devlin said once Adrian slipped into the passenger seat. "I was starting to think you'd overslept." Adrian forced a thin smile. "Just dealing with household matters. You said you had something to discuss?" "Yeah," Devlin said, pulling away from the estate. "Look, I picked up a rumor. Someone named Rowan Donnell is in town, connected to high-profile art deals. Word is, he's been cozying up to local families with money. I thought of you because you're probably the biggest target in this area." Adrian stared out the window at the freshly rinsed streets. Rowan Donnell. The name was new. "How reliable is this rumor?" "Solid enough," Devlin answered. "And you should know. This Rowan might be more trouble than he looks. I'm hearing about questionable financing, potential connections to shady circles. I wanted to warn you in case he tries to pitch some art investment or something like that." Adrian's jaw tightened. Could this be the man behind Vanessa's texts? Miles's new mentor? At a small corner cafe, Devlin parked. Over bacon, eggs, and coffee refills, Adrian confided, "Vanessa's phone, odd messages. Miles is acting secretive. I suspect someone's offering them illusions. Maybe an art gallery, maybe something else." Devlin's expression grew serious. "Adrian, if you want me to look into it more formally, I can, but that might lead to bigger headlines if it's personal. We can handle it discreetly for now." Adrian leaned back in his seat, swirling the last of his coffee. "Let's keep this quiet. I have Vaughn doing a light investigation. I'll keep you posted if it escalates." An hour later, Devlin dropped him off. Adrian paused beside the car. "Thank you." Devlin nodded, a hint of concern in his eyes. "Watch your back, and watch your families, too." Standing at the edge of his driveway, Adrian noticed Celia stepping out onto the porch. She gave him a small wave, her eyes flicking from him to the workers still repairing the broken glass. He waved back, mind swirling. A name, Rowan Donnell. Could he be the one texting Vanessa? The storm might have passed, but in Adrian's chest, a new kind of tempest brewed a quiet but pervasive suspicion. Miles let out a low whistle the moment he walked into Donnell Gallery. The space was all polished concrete floors and tall white walls, punctuated by spotlight fixtures that showcased modern paintings. Glass display cases lined one side, each containing delicate sculptures that glittered under precise LED lighting. "You like it?" Rowan Donnell asked, emerging from a back room. Tall, with a self-assured smile, Rowan exuded a casual elegance. A crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, and designer shoes that cost more than some people's monthly rent. Miles nodded, trying to hide his awe. "It's incredible. I've never seen a gallery like this in person. Usually just online." Rowan chuckled. "Online never does justice to the real thing. Here." He gestured for Miles to follow him past a series of abstract paintings. "I'm curating a new exhibition focusing on emerging artists. Real cutting-edge stuff. Interested in joining our team as an intern?" Miles felt his heart skip. "Me? I mean, I'm just a first-year college student with some sketches and photography work on the side." "Everyone starts somewhere," Rowan said. "I see potential. You have an eye for detail, for color. And from what you've told me, your mother Vanessa, right? She shares an appreciation for the arts?" Miles hesitated, recalling Rowan's previous suggestions that Vanessa might invest. "Yeah, she does, especially modern art." Rowan's lips curled into a knowing smile. Perfect. A dynamic mother-son partnership in the art world could be powerful. He motioned toward a side door. "I'm planning a second gallery downtown. I need fresh perspectives and funding, if I'm honest. But expansions always start with a strong vision." The subtext was impossible to miss. "I need investors." Miles swallowed. Mom might have access to Dad's finances. Rowan noticed the flicker of conflict on Miles's face. "Hey," he said gently, placing a hand on Miles's shoulder. "I'm not pressuring you. I'm just saying if you and your mother ever wanted to be part of something groundbreaking, you know where to find me." Miles nodded, feeling a swirl of excitement and guilt. "I appreciate it, Rowan." They wandered around, discussing pieces from local painters. Rowan's knowledge was impressive. He spoke about brushstrokes, mediums, the story behind each work. His voice wove enthralling narratives that made even an odd, abstract piece feel magical. It was the kind of passion Miles had yearned for, a stark contrast to his father's structured corporate mindset. Later that afternoon, as Miles headed toward the exit, he glanced back at Rowan. The man was on his phone, smiling to someone on the line. "Mom," Miles guessed. He'd given Rowan her number earlier, under the guise of, "It might be helpful for networking." Now, a pang of anxiety tugged at him. He told himself it was harmless. Rowan is just a visionary at the coal estate. Adrian pulled his car into the garage. He walked inside to find Vanessa standing near the kitchen island, phone in hand. The second he entered, she set it face down on the marble countertop. The subtle gesture spoke volumes. He opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water. "What's for dinner?" he asked casually. Vanessa forced a smile. "I was thinking we could order in, maybe Thai. I'm not up for cooking." "Fine." Adrian took a sip, eyes flicking to her phone. "Any new calls from your charity group?" Her smile wavered. "Not really." She changed the subject with awkward speed. "Did the storm repairs go well?" "Yeah. Workers finished replacing the broken glass. They found a few more cracks in the framework, some we didn't see last night." Vanessa's expression faltered for a second, as though she recognized the metaphor. "Cracks can be fixed, right?" Adrian set the water bottle down. "Only if we address them before they spread." He studied her, hoping she'd break the growing tension. She didn't, so he nodded and turned away, heading upstairs to the home office. Miles nearly collided with him in the hallway, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Dad," Miles mumbled. Adrian noticed a new spark in his son's eye, like he'd discovered a piece of a puzzle he'd been searching for. "You seem busy," Adrian remarked. Miles shrugged. "I'm just, working on some art projects. The gallery downtown He cut himself off, face flushing slightly. Adrian raised a brow. Gallery downtown? Never mind, Miles blurted, pushing past and vanishing into his room. Adrian stood in the hall, unsettled. Miles is definitely hiding something. The entire house reeked of secrets, Vanessa's phone calls, Miles's new obsession, and a faint mention of a Don something. He recalled Devlin's words. Rowan Donnell. Possibly linked to shady financing, possibly grooming wealthy families for personal gain. That night, as thunder rumbled in the distance from an aftershock of the storm, Adrian sat in his dimly lit office, reviewing finances. He found odd transactions in Vanessa's accounts, nothing huge, but repeated small transfers. Meanwhile, texts from Vaughn indicated minimal progress in identifying who was messaging her. Patience, Adrian whispered to himself, glancing at the portrait of his family on the shelf, Vanessa, Miles, Celia, and him. In the photo, they all smiled without a trace of tension. Now he felt an invisible crack running straight through that image, threatening to split them apart. The next morning, the hum of productivity enveloped Cole Architectural Adrian's pride and joy. Located in a sleek high-rise, the firm was renowned for cutting-edge designs integrating steel and specialized glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a panoramic view of the city skyline. Adrian arrived early, stepping off the private elevator into a corridor lined with architectural sketches and photos of completed skyscrapers. "Morning, Mr. Cole." Briar Ashcroft, his capable executive assistant, greeted him with a stack of files. Her short dark hair framed a sharp face that exuded confidence. "We have a meeting at 10 with the finance team, and the city commissioner wants to confirm details on the riverfront project." "Thanks, Briar," Adrian said, checking his watch. "Let's also schedule something with Devlin Price soon." Briar's eyes flickered with curiosity, but she nodded without prying. "Will do. By the way, I've been reviewing the Cole family fund. Some statements look off. Would you like me to take a deeper look?" Adrian paused, reading her expression. "Yes, please. Focus on any recent withdrawals or unusual transfers." Briar moved swiftly to her desk, her heels tapping the polished floor. Adrian headed into his private office. The wide windows behind his desk framed the city's towering buildings, many of which he'd helped design. This place was a testament to his meticulous planning, his unwavering focus. Yet, in his personal life, cracks were forming that no blueprint could fix. An hour later, Briar tapped on his door. "I have partial information, but I need confirmation from the bank. Looks like small sums transferred to an account flagged as art gallery partner deposit." "Know anything about that?" Adrian felt his pulse kick up. "Not specifically. Keep digging." He then placed a call to Devlin Price. "Devlin, can we meet later this week? I have strong indications Vanessa might be moving money to some art gallery account. It could be connected to Rowan Donnell." Devlin sighed through the phone. "I'll clear my schedule. Just be sure you truly want to open that door. Once we gather evidence formally, it's hard to keep it quiet." Adrian gazed at the cityscape outside. "I need to protect what's mine." Shortly after lunch, the finance team meeting concluded. Briar re-entered his office, this time with a determined look. "I found statements indicating multiple transfers from the family fund to an account associated with an LLC. The LLC ties back to a new gallery downtown, Donnell something." A cold certainty settled over Adrian. He clenched his fists, remembering the fleeting conversation with Miles about a gallery. "So it's not just a rumor," he said under his breath. "Sir?" Briar asked. Adrian exhaled. "No, it's fine. Good work. Prepare the necessary documents. I might need them soon if I have to freeze certain assets." Briar studied him, her eyes flicking with concern. "Understood. Anything else I can do?" "Yes," Adrian said, voice steely. "Make sure no further funds can be withdrawn without my personal approval. We're shutting off the spigot." Briar nodded. "Got it." The rest of the day blurred by in a series of terse phone calls and data reviews. Late in the afternoon, a text from Vaughn Trace lit up Adrian's phone. "I've got footage. It's not just Vanessa. Your son's in it, too. They were with Donnell in a downtown loft. You need to see this." Adrian's lips pressed into a thin line. He typed a quick reply. "Meet me at my office after hours." He tossed his phone onto the desk, a storm of rage and betrayal gathering in his chest. By 6 o'clock, the staff had mostly left. Breyer waved goodbye, leaving Adrian alone in the expansive office. The setting sun tinted the skyline a molten gold through the windows. He stared at the reflection of himself in the glass, a successful man, in control except at home. At 6:30, Vaughn arrived. The man's serious demeanor confirmed the gravity of his findings. He handed Adrian a USB drive. "I'm sorry. This is worse than you suspected." Adrian's throat tightened, but he plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered to life with images. Vanessa entering a high-end condo building, Rowan at her side. A moment later, Miles appeared in a different frame, chatting with Rowan. The timestamp revealed repeated visits. Adrian switched off the video. A hollow ache throbbed in his chest. Then, as if a steel shutter had dropped across his emotions, he spoke quietly. "Send me the raw files." Vaughn nodded. "You okay?" Adrian's voice came out cold. "I've dealt with bigger threats in business. I'll handle this one at home." He shut his laptop with a decisive click. "But they've made a mistake. I'll make sure they pay for it." That night, after Vaughn left, Adrian lingered in his office, staring at the dark windows reflecting the city lights. Tomorrow he would begin a legal onslaught. Freezing finances was just the first step. He refused to let betrayal tarnish what he'd built. No one, not even his wife and son, would tear down Cole Architectural or the empire he had bled to create. Below his night settled over the towering skyline like a heavy curtain, the city lights flickering beneath a dark, starless sky. Inside Cole Architectural's executive floor, the hum of air conditioning underscored the late-hour hush. Most employees had gone home, leaving only the steady glow from Adrian Cole's private office. Adrian sat behind his sleek glass desk, reviewing architectural renderings that might have normally sparked a sense of pride. Tonight, however, his mind was too tangled with family worries to appreciate the futuristic designs. The overhead lights cast pale reflections on the polished floor, mirroring his tense posture. He glanced at his watch. 10:14 p.m. "Where is Vaughn?" The ping of the elevator answered, as Vaughn Trace finally stepped onto the floor. He walked in, shoulders set with an almost military precision, holding a slim black USB drive between his fingertips. "I appreciate you staying this late," Adrian said, motioning for Vaughn to take a seat. Vaughn offered a curt nod. "I wanted to be absolutely sure about what I found before bringing it to you." Adrian inhaled deeply. "Go ahead." Vaughn slid the USB across the glass desktop. "Security footage from a high-end condo downtown. You asked me to monitor unusual movements involving Vanessa. I cross-referenced building logs with car license plates and times she left your estate. That's when I found this." Adrian's hand tightened around the flash drive, an anxious flicker in his eyes. "Show me." They transferred the file to Adrian's laptop. Grainy but unmistakable video showed a well-lit hallway and a posh elevator door. Vanessa emerged from the elevator, her hair swept up in a loose chignon, wearing a fitted coat that did little to hide her nervous fidgeting. Moments later, Rowan Donnell appeared, greeting her with a close, almost intimate familiarity. They disappeared into a corner, presumably heading for his private loft. Then, another clip revealed Miles stepping off the same elevator on a different day. He pressed a button on his phone, perhaps texting, before Rowan approached him with a hand on his shoulder. The men walked away together, their body language hinting at some shared scheme. Adrian's pulse hammered in his ears. He paused the footage. The still image showed Rowan's confident smile, while Vanessa and Miles each looked uncertain, as though crossing some moral boundary they weren't fully prepared for. A calm, calculated mask slipped over Adrian's face, a stark contrast to the turmoil beneath. Vaughn cleared his throat. They visited that apartment multiple times. The records confirm at least 4 separate occasions in the last 2 weeks. Eyes fixed on the screen, Adrian exhaled slowly. "Thank you, Vaughn. You said you have more details?" Vaughn produced a thin manila folder. "Background on Rowan Donnell. He's a gallery owner known for courting investors from wealthy families. Rumors of questionable deals surround him, but nothing proven yet. Your wife?" He paused, choosing words carefully. "Seems to be meeting him privately. And from what I can tell, Miles is also involved." Adrian turned off the laptop, tension radiating through his shoulders. I need to confirm just how deeply they've gone. Is it purely an affair, or is there a financial angle beyond fidelity concerns? Vaughn nodded. I'll keep digging. Let me know if you need anything else. As Vaughn left, Adrian sat in silence, the flash drive still plugged into the computer like an unwanted anchor. A swirl of betrayal clutched at his chest Vanessa's secrecy, Miles's complicity. Instead of a wave of rage, he felt a cold resolve forming. Rising from his chair, Adrian walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city sprawled beneath him like a battlefield, neon lights tracing patterns that looked almost like veins pumping life into the urban heart. In that reflection, he saw a man who was both the victim of a personal betrayal and the commander of an impending counterattack. He pressed a palm flat against the cool glass. If Rowan thinks I'll just sit idle while he weaves my family into his schemes, he's sadly mistaken. And as for Vanessa, Adrian's jaw tightened. She had made her choice, consciously stepping over a line that no storm of apologies could completely erase. Miles, however, was something else, a 19-year-old searching for approval, perhaps lured by false promises of artistic mentorship. Yet, complicity was complicity. Adrian couldn't ignore the fact that his own son was sneaking behind his back. A low beep from his computer snapped him from his thoughts, an email notification from Devlin Price. Adrian sighed, returning to his desk. Invisible evidence was no longer invisible. He had exactly what he needed to move forward. With a decisive click, he ejected the USB drive and locked it in his drawer. Then he picked up his phone to send Devlin a short message. We need to meet. There's more than a personal betrayal here. Outside, the night swallowed the city in quiet darkness. But in Adrian's mind, the real battle had only begun. Early the next morning, gray clouds lingered over the city, casting a somber tone that matched Adrian's mood. Seated in a private conference room at Cole Architectural, he reviewed a stack of documents with Briar Ashcroft, his razor-sharp executive assistant, and a trusted financial attorney named Kendall Reeves, a discreet figure known for handling sensitive corporate issues. The room itself was a tribute to Adrian's design philosophy. Walls of frosted glass offered a sense of openness, but also privacy, and the dark wooden table contrasted elegantly with the sleek metal fixtures. No windows to the outside world, just a sealed environment for discussing topics that must remain confidential. Kendall set down a glossy report, tapping a highlighted section. We've confirmed multiple small transfers from the Cole Family Fund to an LLC partially registered under Rowan Donnell's name. The amounts won't raise immediate red flags, but the pattern is unmistakable. This could be used to claim fraudulent activity if your wife and Rowan are diverting funds without your knowledge. Briar frowned, flipping through another file. I also discovered something interesting. Miles had requested a partial advance on his trust, didn't get it, but he tried. That's unusual for him. Adrian pressed his fingers together, resting his chin on them. Vanessa is authorized to withdraw from certain shared accounts, but only up to a point. If she's funneling money into Rowan's venture, that's crossing a boundary she knows I consider sacred. Kendall nodded. The biggest question: do you want to freeze these assets now or quietly observe to gather more evidence? Adrian leaned back in his chair, gaze drifting to the abstract painting on the wall. It reminded him of the confusion swirling in his personal life, colors colliding, shapes blending. We hold off a direct freeze, he said at length. I want them to think they can keep going. Once I have undeniable proof enough to demonstrate fraudulent intent, I'll clamp down. Briar exchanged a glance with Kendall. And how do you plan to handle the personal side of it, if I may ask? Adrian's lips thinned. I'm meeting Devlin soon, but as far as the marriage is concerned, I'm preparing for divorce. Let's call it a final measure to protect everything I've built. A hushed silence settled in the room. Briar's eyes flickered with empathy. She'd witnessed plenty of corporate battles, but rarely saw her composed boss grappling with betrayal at home. Kendall simply nodded, professional detachment in every line of his face. At that moment, Adrian's phone vibrated against the table. A text from Devlin. Ready whenever you are. Let me know. Adrian typed a curt reply, then looked up. All right, he said, tapping the folder closed. Let's finalize the offshore accounts. Kendall, you'll coordinate with the Swiss branch, correct? Absolutely. Kendall slid the relevant paperwork across. Sign here, here, and here. Adrian swiftly signed, mentally noting each pen stroke as a step toward safeguarding not just his business empire, but his dignity. When he finished, he exhaled, tension coiled tight in his chest. From this moment on, we keep everything discreet. If Vanessa and Miles want to betray me, they'll walk right into a trap. Briar softly cleared her throat. Sir, there's one more thing. I've been approached by a real estate agent named Sandra Alvarez who says Rowan Donnell was scouting a new gallery space. She claims Rowan name-dropped the Cole family as key investors. Adrian's eyes hardened, so he's confident enough to flaunt it publicly. Kendall tapped his pen on the table. He's either reckless or extremely sure that Vanessa will back him. Could be both. Adrian stood, smoothing out his suit jacket. Thank you, both of you. Kendall, proceed with the asset protection. Briar, keep me updated on any real estate leads Rowan pursues. Let's give them all the rope they need. As they filed out, Briar offered him a solemn nod of support. Adrian returned it in kind, but deep down, a swirl of bitterness mixed with grim determination. He had always prided himself on building an empire from scratch. Now, he realized, empire building included defending it against those closest to him. Less than an hour later, Adrian stepped into Devlin Price's downtown office, a modest space overlooking a busy intersection. The DA greeted him with a firm handshake. You said there's more than an affair. What is it? Adrian explained the financial scheme in clipped, precise sentences. Devlin's brows rose higher with each new detail. Adrian, he said quietly, if you can prove your wife and Rowan conspired to access your funds without proper authorization, it's a form of fraud. That drastically changes how any divorce settlement might go. I'm counting on it, Adrian replied bluntly. Devlin's gaze sharpened. You sure you want to proceed this way? It could get ugly for you and your kids. Adrian's jaw tightened. I'll do what I must. They've left me no choice. A thoughtful pause. Then Devlin nodded. Understood. Let me know when you have enough to move. Until then, keep your cards close. As Adrian departed onto the bustling sidewalk, the mid-morning sun broke through the cloud cover, momentarily warming his face. He didn't feel any relief. Instead, he felt as though the city's massive towers were watching him, silent witnesses to a battle that was just warming up. Fine, he thought. They want a war? I've never lost one yet. Twilight cast a soft golden glow across the Cole Estate's manicured lawns. Inside, the dining room table was meticulously set for 4 silverware gleaming, a delicate floral centerpiece exuding sweet fragrance. Yet the atmosphere felt as stiff as a staged photo shoot. Adrian took his usual seat at the head of the table, eyes flicking to each family member. Vanessa entered wearing a navy blouse and pencil skirt. She paused momentarily, meeting Adrian's gaze with uncertainty. Miles followed soon after, sporting a paint-splotched hoodie like he'd come directly from some art project. Celia, with her braided hair, settled in quietly, offering everyone a polite nod. For a moment, they ate in near silence, the faint clink of forks against plates filling the void. Adrian found it oddly symbolic, like a family that had forgotten how to talk without pretense. Eventually, he broke the silence. How was your day, Miles? Miles glanced up, eyes darting toward Vanessa as though seeking permission. Fine. Went to the city for some sketches. Hung around just trying to get inspiration. Adrian set his fork down, folding his hands. That inspiration wouldn't be the Donnell Gallery, would it? The tension rose instantly. Vanessa's expression tightened, but she kept her gaze on her plate. Miles shrugged, putting on an air of casual innocence. Yeah, maybe. Rowan, he's got great insight into modern art. And you're learning a lot from him? Adrian pressed. Miles hesitated, a defensive edge creeping into his voice. He's helping me figure out my style. At least he cares about my interests. Celia, sensing the storm brewing, tried to lighten the atmosphere. Dad, maybe we should. Adrian raised a calming hand, though his voice carried a steel undertone. Look, I'm just curious. Your new mentor seems quite eager to help. And your mother, he turned toward Vanessa. How's your charity group these days? Any interesting expansions in the city? Vanessa's cheeks flushed. She forced a smile. Nothing significant. The fundraiser plans fell through. You know how it is. Oh, I do, Adrian replied, not bothering to hide his skepticism. Things fall through all the time, especially when they're not transparent. Miles's fork clattered onto his plate. Do we have to do this now? If you have some problem with me working on art, just say it. Adrian locked eyes with his son. He's upset, but is it guilt or just frustration? The father in him felt a pang of sorrow, but the businessman in him recognized the stench of a cover-up. No issue with art, Miles. I just dislike secrets. If something concerns my name, my finances, or my family, I want it in the open. A hush settled over them again. Then, Vanessa stood, pushing her chair back abruptly. I'm not feeling well. Sorry. She turned on her heel and left, footsteps echoing down the corridor. Miles shot a glare at Adrian, mumbling, "Way to ruin dinner," before hastily following Vanessa. The table was left with only Celia and Adrian, a thick tension in the air. Celia fiddled with the edge of her napkin. Dad, maybe they just wanted to handle things on their own. Rowan might be harmless. Adrian gave a short, humorless laugh. Celia, I love your optimism, but I know trouble when I see it. Rowan isn't some kind of philanthropic art sponsor. He's cunning, and your brother and mother are caught in his web. She frowned, her shoulders drooping. I'm worried. Everyone's on edge, and I feel like I'm watching a train wreck I can't stop. Reaching out, Adrian gently squeezed her hand. I'll protect you, no matter what. Standing up, he said quietly, Finish your meal if you can. I have a call to make. He left the dining room, footsteps purposeful. He found Vanessa in the living room, phone in hand yet again. Before she could slip away, he leaned in close enough to speak without Celia overhearing. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, he stated, his tone betraying no emotion. We're meeting at Devlin's office, don't be late. Vanessa's eyes flared with both fear and defiance. What, why? You'll see, Adrian replied, turning away before she could argue. Upstairs, Celia hovered near the railing, having caught the tense exchange. She watched her father climb the spiral staircase, shoulders set in a posture of cold determination. Something big is about to happen. She was sure of it. The entire house felt like a dam about to break. Bright morning sunlight streamed through Devlin Price's law office windows. The space was tastefully modern, with black leather chairs and a row of towering green plants that lined the interior glass wall. It was a stark contrast to the tension brimming between Adrian and Vanessa Cole. Devlin, seated behind a polished wooden desk, cleared his throat. Shall we get started? He asked politely, though his tone indicated he knew exactly how uncomfortable this would be. Vanessa perched on the edge of her chair, arms crossed. She wore a fitted gray dress, her posture defensive. Adrian stood beside her, choosing not to sit, shoulders rigid. He hadn't spoken to Vanessa since last night's abrupt dinner confrontation. All right, Devlin continued, opening a thick binder. Adrian, you've requested we file for divorce. I assume you have grounds beyond standard irreconcilable differences. Adrian crossed his arms. Yes, I have proof of infidelity and possible financial misconduct. Fraud, in simpler terms. Vanessa's eyes widened. Fraud? This is insane. I haven't stolen a dime from you. Devlin interjected softly. Vanessa, please understand. We're not making formal accusations in the criminal sense. Not yet. Adrian is stating that funds were moved out of the marital estate without his knowledge. Combined with the affair, it changes how property division might be viewed by the court. Her face flushed. That's not how it is. And if you think you can just serve me with these lies and walk away unscathed, Adrian, you're delusional. Adrian's voice was eerily calm. Maybe I am delusional for trusting you all these years, but not anymore. He turned to Devlin. We have the account records, dates of suspicious transactions, and I have more evidence linking Rowan Donald to those transactions. Miles is involved, too. Vanessa stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. Leave Miles out of this. He's just a kid, for God's sake. He admires Rowan's talent. Adrian cut her off, his gaze chilling. He's 19 and aware enough to make his own choices. If he's funneling money to Rowan or enabling you to do so, He's complicit. Devlin tapped a pen on the desk, trying to regain order. All right, let's keep this professional. Adrian, to protect your assets, you plan to petition the court for an immediate freeze on certain joint accounts. Yes? Adrian nodded. Precisely. I've prepared the documents with my financial attorney. I'll sign them today. A flicker of panic crossed Vanessa's face. So that's it? You want me penniless? I'm the mother of your children. His jaw tightened. I'm not leaving you penniless. The courts will decide what you're entitled to, but I won't let you or Rowan benefit from my work any longer. Vanessa sank back into the chair, eyes shining with a mix of anger and betrayal. You're no saint, Adrian. You bury yourself in that architectural empire, ignoring your family. Maybe if you'd shown some warmth, I wouldn't have... Her voice trembled, and she looked away as though admitting too much. Devlin cleared his throat again, shifting uncomfortably. Emotions aside, we can draft an initial filing that highlights possible marital misconduct. Vanessa, you'd be well advised to get your own legal counsel. This is going to be a contentious divorce from the looks of it. Silence fell, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of a wall clock. Finally, Adrian took a pen from Devlin's desk, signing the top page of the divorce petition. He slid it across the desk, meeting Vanessa's gaze briefly, a flicker of old memories and love overshadowed by the present maelstrom. Then he turned away, slipping the pen into his jacket pocket as though symbolically ending any further negotiations. Devlin stacked the papers. I'll file this immediately. Once it's in motion, we'll schedule a preliminary hearing. Vanessa rose, smoothing down her dress with shaking hands. Adrian, she said, voice softer for a moment. This doesn't have to be a war. Let's talk just us. He paused at the door, not looking back. You should have thought of that before Rowan, before the secret accounts, before everything. She stared at his back, tears threatening, as he pulled open the office door. Her final words died on her lips as he walked out into the hallway, posture unyielding. Devlin offered Vanessa a sympathetic look. I suggest you hire counsel soon. Adrian has a strong case, especially if there's evidence of financial dishonesty. Vanessa exhaled shakily, gathering her purse. Her world had flipped upside down in mere minutes, and she could feel the weight of her decisions pressing down, unstoppable as a landslide. Fine, she managed, forcing composure. I'll find an attorney. As she stepped out into the corridor, she spotted Adrian already waiting for the elevator, their eyes locked for half a heartbeat. Then the elevator doors slid open, and he vanished behind them, leaving Vanessa alone in the sterile hallway, legal paperwork in hand, and a swirling sense of dread in her heart. At dawn, pale light crept across the manicured gardens of the Cole estate. Vanessa Cole awakened to the faint sound of a car door shutting outside. Curious and still half asleep, she slipped on a robe and made her way to the foyer. Through the frosted glass front doors, she caught sight of a uniformed courier hurrying away, leaving a thick envelope at the doorstep. Her stomach tightened. Who delivers documents this early? She murmured. Cracking the door open, she retrieved the envelope, scanning the label. From the office of Devlin Price. A sudden chill rushed through her. She tore it open to find official-looking papers stamped with bold letters, Summons Divorce Petition. Her pulse thundered in her ears. He actually filed, she whispered, adrenaline spiking. Clutching the documents, she retreated indoors. The pages detailed everything: requests for asset freezes, allegations of infidelity, a call for an urgent hearing. The formality of it, the cold language made her heart pound. Moments later, her phone buzzed. She picked up automatically, voice trembling. Hello? Rowan Donnell's smooth baritone answered. Vanessa, you sound upset. Is something wrong? She exhaled shakily, stepping into the living room. He did it. Adrian filed for divorce, she said in a rush. I need to see you. Now. Rowan's tone shifted, brimming with concern. I'll meet you at the gallery in an hour. Stay calm. Vanessa ended the call, only to notice Miles standing at the foot of the stairs, bleary-eyed in sweatpants and a rumpled t-shirt. His gaze fell on the papers in her hand. Mom, what's going on? She swallowed hard. Your father. He's starting the divorce process. Her voice wavered as she tried to maintain composure. Go wake Celia. I don't want her hearing about this from anyone else. Miles took a step forward, Confusion and alarm etched on his face. He's divorcing you? But why so sudden? With a forced shrug, Vanessa clutched the documents. I guess it's not sudden for him. Just for us. She hesitated, her eyes flicking to the second floor. Miles, please just check on your sister. Upstairs, Celia was busy packing her backpack for school. At 17, she'd learned to read the household's tension like headlines on a front page. She sensed something off even before Miles spoke. See? He said quietly. Dad's filed for divorce. Mom's freaking out. You should know. She froze, shoulders tensing. Oh, God. I knew this was bad, but the gravity in her brother's tone made her throat tighten. What do we do now? Miles shook his head. I don't know. I'm heading to the gallery soon, maybe talk to Rowan. He might have advice. Celia frowned. She didn't trust Rowan, but she bit back her protest. I have classes. I can't skip just because of all this. Slinging her backpack over one shoulder, she blinked back tears. Let me know if you need anything. When Celia left for school, the house felt hollow, an uneasy calm before a storm. Vanessa, still wearing a troubled expression, changed into a fitted blouse and jacket. Before stepping out, she eyed a framed family photo in the hallway. Adrian, standing proud with Vanessa at his side, Miles and Celia smiling in front. Was it all so fragile? She wondered, tears threatening to fall. Outside, the sky was bright, the sun ironically casting a warm glow on the estate. She got into her car, divorce papers trembling on the passenger seat. She glanced once more at the grand facade of the house that had once symbolized a secure life. Now each glass panel seemed to reflect her own turmoil back at her. As she pulled away, Adrian's car was noticeably absent from the driveway. He's already gone, she thought, a bitter pang in her chest. Does he feel any remorse at all? Meanwhile, in an empty corridor at Cole Architectural, Adrian sat in a private lounge area, phone in hand. Checking a message from Devlin Price, he read, All set. She'll get the summons this morning. He closed his eyes, letting the reality sink in. Part of him felt relief this was a necessary move, but another part wrestled with the finality of it. He rose, straightening his suit. He needed to maintain composure. The legal war had begun, and there was no turning back. Downtown, in a sleek, modern district, Donnell Gallery occupied a stylish corner building. Normally, midday light filtered through expansive windows, showcasing colorful paintings and avant-garde sculptures. Today, however, the entrance was partially obstructed by barricades from a new Cole architectural construction site across the street. The noise of jackhammers reverberated through the glass, jarring the once tranquil space. Rowan Donnell paced near the front window, wearing a fitted charcoal suit, his expression dark. He tossed a quick glance outside, where half a dozen potential customers walked by, deterred by the cacophony. Adrian Cole is cutting off my foot traffic, he muttered, and likely scaring off my existing clients. A sour laugh escaped him. He's good. Vanessa appeared, her face drawn, stepping gingerly around a cluster of half-unpacked sculpture crates. She pressed a hand to her temple. This is worse than I imagined. The divorce he wants to freeze accounts. My accounts, Rowan. Rowan's eyes flickered with an opportunistic gleam, tempered by frustration. Well, that can't happen if you challenge it aggressively. You can't just let him take everything. Fight for your share. She let out a breath, forcing herself to stand straighter. My share, yes, but I never intended a legal brawl. Her gaze drifted to a half-finished painting leaning against the wall, reminiscent of Miles's style. A pang of guilt ran through her. I just wanted some space, a chance to breathe outside Adrian's shadow. Rowan steered her gently to a plush bench near the main exhibit. You deserve more than a fraction. You supported him for years, made appearances, raised the kids. By law, you're entitled to a large portion of the marital assets. If you let him spin this story of infidelity and theft, you'll walk away with nothing. She bit her lip, mind racing with fear and indignation. You think I should go after the majority? Absolutely, Rowan replied, voice smooth as velvet. And the best defense is offense. File your own motions, accuse him of emotional neglect, controlling behavior. The public will see you as the victim. He's the cold CEO who puts profits over people. Trust me, I've seen how these things play out. Before Vanessa could respond, Miles entered from the rear door, carrying a portfolio of sketches. He paused, scanning the near-empty gallery. "The construction outside is brutal," he muttered, setting his art down. "No wonder we haven't seen any customers." Rowan exchanged a tense glance with Vanessa. "Your father is sending a message," he explained. "Blocking traffic, causing noise. He's practically strangling my business." Miles grimaced. He wouldn't sabotage a gallery just to... He stopped, recalling how methodical Adrian could be. Or maybe he would. Rowan placed a hand on Miles's shoulder, adopting a paternal tone. "It's not just about me, kid. This is about your mom, too. If he undermines this gallery, he undermines your future in the art world. Don't you want to see your own exhibitions here someday?" Miles looked at his mother, frustration warring with doubt. "He's so mad," he said quietly. "I talked to him once about the gallery, and he just dismissed it, like my interests are worthless. I'm sick of it." Vanessa nodded, voice trembling. "Then let's stand up to him. Rowan suggests we counterfile, demand what I'm entitled to, maybe more." Miles let out a slow breath. The gallery's walls bore evidence of Rowan's ambitious expansion plans. Sketches for a second location, mock-ups for promotional campaigns. But the reality was bleak. No customers, no new investors. Adrian's influence was choking them. "Mom, if you think it'll help, do it. He can't always have the upper hand." "Exactly," Rowan murmured, stepping back to rummage through a folder on the reception desk. "I know a lawyer who can represent you, Patricia Whittam, a specialist in high-net-worth divorces. She's relentless." A swirl of emotions passed over Vanessa's face, apprehension, anger, a flicker of hope. "I'll consider it," she said quietly. "I need time to think, but yes, maybe it's the only way." Outside, the jackhammers sputtered, momentarily silenced. The hush felt eerie, almost like the calm before a more violent storm. Vanessa gazed through the window at the half-finished building across the street. A sign read, "Future site of Cole Architectural's Urban Renewal Project." Typical Adrian, she thought, constructing something brand new while tearing down what was left behind. Miles gently placed a hand on his mother's arm. "If you need me to speak on your behalf, I will. Dad might respect me more if I show I'm not a little kid he can push around." But behind the bravado, uncertainty glimmered in his eyes. Rowan, ever the opportunist, observed them with a measured smile. It's working, he thought. If Vanessa and Miles became more reliant on him, his own position would be fortified. "Let's start by painting a narrative that Adrian is the tyrant, forcing you out. We can feed the story to certain local blogs. Public sentiment can be swayed." Vanessa pressed her lips together, recalling how public scrutiny had once been her worst fear. But now, with so much at stake, perhaps Rowan was right. "Fine," she said resolutely. "Let's do it." A fresh wave of jackhammer noise erupted outside, shaking the gallery windows. Rowan scowled, but Vanessa drew herself up with newfound resolve. If Adrian wanted a fight in the court of public opinion, she'd be ready. On a crisp Monday morning, the county courthouse buzzed with media activity. News vans lined the street, reporters angled for vantage points, and curious onlookers gathered at the steps. Word had spread quickly the high-profile divorce of Adrian Cole versus Vanessa Cole, a sensational story combining wealth, rumored infidelity, and financial intrigue. Adrian arrived first, stepping from a Blacktown car. He wore a tailored navy suit, expression impassive. Briar Ashcroft trailed behind him, fielding calls on her phone. "I'll notify the press we have no comment right now," she muttered. Adrian simply nodded, scanning the crowd. Moments later, another car pulled up. Vanessa emerged, accompanied by Patricia Whittam, a formidable attorney known for fierce advocacy. Vanessa wore a fitted charcoal dress, her eyes flicking to the gaggle of cameras with a mix of anxiety and determination. A wave of murmurs passed through the observers. "That's her. She looks nervous. He looks so calm." Flashbulbs erupted as the two parties headed inside, separate and silent. In the hallway, a junior court clerk guided them to a mid-sized courtroom. The walls were paneled in polished wood, and a subdued hush presided over the space. Taking their respective places, Adrian and Vanessa avoided eye contact, tension crackling in the air like static. The presiding judge, a silver-haired woman with a firm gaze, rapped her gavel to open the session. Case number 202398081, Cole versus Cole. We're here today for an initial hearing on spousal support and allegations relating to marital misconduct. Vanessa's attorney rose. Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Cole, contends that Mr. Cole neglected her emotionally and withheld affection, effectively forcing her to seek companionship elsewhere. She is entitled, at a minimum, to substantial interim support given the lifestyle she maintained. Across the aisle, Devlin Price, representing Adrian's interests, stood calmly. With respect, Your Honor, we have evidence Mrs. Cole engaged in an extramarital relationship with Rowan Donnell and diverted funds from the family estate. We propose minimal spousal support until a thorough investigation clarifies any fraudulent transfers. The judge arched a brow. Fraudulent transfers? Please elaborate. Devlin gestured to a stack of documents. We have banking records indicating multiple unexplained withdrawals by Mrs. Cole, directed toward accounts linked to Donnell Gallery. This could represent misuse of marital assets if performed secretly without Mr. Cole's consent. Patricia Whittam countered, voice crisp. That's speculation. Mrs. Cole has every right to invest in legitimate art ventures. Meanwhile, Mr. Cole's cold and domineering behavior pushed her away. We request the court to consider emotional damages and the stark power imbalance. From the gallery seats, a small press contingent took frantic notes. Miles, seated behind Vanessa, fidgeted anxiously, Celia next to him. Celia's face was solemn, absorbing each testimony like someone reading a script from a tragic play. Adrian maintained a composed demeanor, though tension rippled across his features whenever the word fraud echoed. Vanessa, for her part, pressed her lips together each time her affair was mentioned, as if the shame still stung. Finally, it was Vanessa's turn to speak. Rising from her seat, she tried to steady her trembling voice. Adrian built his empire, yes, but he was never around. I felt invisible, unappreciated, and she paused, eyes watering. Yes, I found someone who appreciated me. As for the funds, I never intended any wrongdoing. I believed Rowan's business was a valid opportunity. I had no reason to think it would be labeled fraudulent. The judge listened intently, then nodded for Adrian to respond. He rose, gaze flicking briefly to Vanessa. I devoted my life to Cole Architectural to provide for my family, ensuring they lacked for nothing. If that's considered cold, I can't help it. I do know that while I was signing contracts around the world, my wife was signing away our assets behind my back. A hush settled. The judge tapped her pen on the bench. I see. At this stage, I will make a provisional ruling on spousal support. Given the allegations, we'll set an interim payment, nothing extravagant, until we determine the full scope of this potential financial misconduct. Mrs. Cole, you'll receive a modest sum monthly, pending further review. Vanessa's face tightened in disappointment. Adrian suppressed a grim nod, acknowledging a temporary concession, but not a defeat. The judge then eyed the attorneys. We'll reconvene in due course with more evidence. Until then, no further asset withdrawals beyond daily living expenses. Understood? Both sides agreed. The gavel struck with a hollow echo, concluding the session. Reporters in the hallway jostled for reaction quotes, but Adrian breezed past them in stoic silence. Vanessa, however, paused to state, I just want justice. A quiver in her tone that might either spark sympathy or skepticism among onlookers. As they stepped outside the courthouse, Celia tugged on Miles's sleeve. This is so horrible. Mom looked devastated. Miles stared at the ground, shoulders heavy. Yeah, but did you see Dad's face? He's not giving her any room to breathe. Little did they know. Celia's phone held something that would soon escalate this conflict further. In her pocket, an audio recording from the night before capturing a private conversation between Miles, Vanessa, and Rowan. She'd pressed record in a moment of suspicion, uncertain if it was right. Now the device felt like a time bomb. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through the blinds of Devlin Price's law office. Adrian sat in a leather chair, posture rigid, while Celia hovered near the door, hesitant. She clutched her phone as if it were fragile glass. Devlin ended a call and looked up. All right. Oh, you said Celia has something important? Celia nodded shyly. I wasn't trying to spy, but I overheard Mom and Miles talking with Rowan about faking testimony or twisting facts to look worse for Dad. I pressed record because I was worried they'd cross a line. She hesitated. Is that even legal? Devlin gave a cautious nod. As long as you were in a space where you had the right to be and it wasn't a private, privileged conversation. Let's hear it. Heart pounding, Celia tapped her phone. Muffled voices played. Miles's voice. Look, if we claim Dad was controlling, wouldn't that make Mom look more sympathetic? People need a narrative. Vanessa, I don't want to lie, but Rowan says the court sees emotional abuse as a real factor. Maybe we emphasize the neglect. Rowan. Exactly. Paint a grim picture of him. Exaggerate if you must. He's so stoic, no one will doubt it. We have to win the public's support, otherwise you'll end up with pennies. Trust me. The recording ended with the sound of footsteps, presumably Celia darting away. Adrian's face hardened, a swirl of anger and pain coloring his features. They're actively conspiring, he said softly, to manipulate the court and defame me. Devlin leaned forward, expression grave. This is more than defamation. If they knowingly present false testimony to gain a financial advantage, it crosses into fraud territory. Coupled with the asset misuse, this could be a game changer. Celia's eyes shone with unshed tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want to betray them, but it felt so wrong. Adrian rose, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. This is bigger than just a dispute. This is about justice and truth. He turned to Devlin. How can we use this? Devlin exhaled, weighing the options. We'll need to verify the authenticity, but once validated, we can submit it to the judge. This could lead to serious legal repercussions for Vanessa and Rowan. Miles, too, if he goes along with it. A flicker of regret passed over Adrian's face. He's my son, Devlin. I'm furious. But he's young. Easily influenced. Devlin nodded sympathetically. Understood. But from a legal standpoint, involvement is involvement. He paused. Are you comfortable using this at the next hearing? Adrian lifted his chin, determination flaring in his eyes. If they're prepared to lie under oath, I'll do what it takes to protect my name. Yes, file it. Celia took a shaky breath. What happens to Mom if it's proven she tried to commit fraud in court? Potential criminal charges, Devlin said gently. At minimum, it will drastically affect any settlement. Adrian's phone buzzed. Checking the screen, he frowned an unknown number, a text reading, You found a new low, Adrian. We're not done. He showed it to Devlin. Rowan? Devlin shrugged. Possibly. He's the type to lash out. We'll keep track. Meanwhile, I'll set a meeting with the judge to present these new findings. That next hearing is shaping up to be critical. Celia hovered near the office window, gazing out at the city's sprawl. How did we get here? She recalled simpler days, family vacations, birthday celebrations. Everything felt so irreparably broken now. Adrian glanced at her, sensing her sorrow. See, you can wait in the lobby if this is too much. She turned, her voice wavering. No, Dad. I want to do what's right. Devlin cleared his throat. Then I'll request an expedited hearing. The judge needs to see how they're orchestrating testimony. We can't allow false narratives to stand. Adrian nodded. Agreed. We'll show them we won't be bullied or deceived. His jaw clenched as he studied the audio file on Celia's phone. Part of him wanted to confront Vanessa and Miles, directly demand an explanation. But reason prevailed. No more emotional showdowns. Now it was about strategy, evidence, and winning the battle on legal grounds. As they wrapped up, Celia asked quietly, What if Mom regrets it? Maybe she was pressured by Rowan. I overheard her say she didn't want to lie. Devlin pursed his lips. We can't speculate on that now, Celia. The recording speaks for itself. If she chooses a different path later, that's her choice. Adrian placed a light hand on Celia's shoulder. Let's go home. Outside, dusk settled over the city. The wind carried a cool edge, hinting at the changing seasons. For Adrian, it felt like a turning point, no longer just a personal rift, but a legal war, one that might end with his wife facing charges and his son caught in the crossfire. Let them do their worst, he thought grimly. I'm done letting them pull the strings. A pale sunrise crept through the towering windows of Cole Architectural's corporate lobby. Adrian Cole stepped off the elevator, expecting the usual calm. Instead, he was met by uneasy glances from passing staff. Some whispered behind half-closed office doors, others avoided eye contact altogether. Something's off, he thought, adjusting his suit jacket. Briar Ashcroft approached him with a tablet in hand. She looked troubled. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. There's a video online. It's spreading fast." Adrian's brow furrowed. "Video of what?" Briar tapped the screen, opening a clip from a social media site. The shaky footage showed a man who looked strikingly like Adrian, speaking in low tones to an unseen associate. "I want her humiliated. I'll set the perfect trap, make Vanessa look like the villain. With enough manipulation, I'll destroy her credibility and keep my fortune intact." The voice was nearly identical to Adrian's. The angle and lighting suggested a clandestine meeting in some dimly lit room. Adrian stared, shocked. "I never said those words, never had such a meeting." Still, the face on screen was eerily familiar. "Where did this come from?" Adrian asked, a chill sweeping through him. Briar shook her head, voice tight with concern. "No official source, but multiple accounts are posting it, claiming it's proof you orchestrated your wife's downfall. Hashtags calling you manipulative, even abusive, and it's affecting our share price. Investors are rattled." Adrian forced himself to remain calm, though an undercurrent of dread simmered. "All right, get me Devlin Price on the line. We need to see if this is some hoax or, God forbid, a skilled forgery." Within minutes, Adrian was in his office on a conference call with Devlin Price and a digital forensic specialist named Harvey Cruz, someone Devlin knew from previous cases. The specialist's tone was clipped but professional. At first glance, this could be a deepfake, a manipulated video that merges real footage with fabricated visuals and audio, but I need raw data to confirm. Devlin jumped in. "Adrian, if this is a deepfake, you're dealing with an orchestrated attack. We'll request a takedown, but that won't stop the rumor mill." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Do whatever you must. This can't go unanswered." Briar slipped him a note. "Cole Architectural stock down 5% already." He inhaled sharply. "All right. I'll address the board soon. Briar, get a statement ready. I deny these allegations entirely." She nodded, leaving quickly. Vaughn Trace, head of security, appeared in the doorway. "I heard this is sabotage at a professional level. Might be Rowan Donnell's doing or someone he hired." Adrian gave a grim nod, shutting down the video. "I'll bet on Rowan. He's the only one with enough motive to create something this elaborate." The memory of Rowan's previous schemes flashed through Adrian's mind, his shady deals, his sway over Vanessa and Miles. This was just another move in a high-stakes game. "Let's see how they react when we pull the curtain back," Adrian murmured. "He might have silenced me with a scandal, but he has no idea who he's fighting." A tense afternoon settled over Donnell Gallery, where foot traffic remained scarce thanks to the persistent construction across the street. Rowan Donnell paced behind the counter, phone glued to his ear. "Yes, I'm aware the video's gone viral," he muttered, frustration edging each syllable. "Don't worry, we have an alibi. People want to believe Adrian's the villain." He ended the call as Vanessa and Miles entered through a back door. Miles looked uneasy. "Everyone's talking about that video. My phone's blowing up. Friends from the Art Institute keep asking if Dad really plotted all of this. It's insane." Vanessa, wearing a fitted black blazer that accented her tense posture, set her purse on a nearby table. "I can't believe it's real. Adrian's never been that vicious, but I can't deny the resemblance." Her voice wavered. "It's terrifying." Rowan let out a calculated sigh, stepping closer. "Deepfake technology can be quite convincing these days. People are already siding with you, Vanessa. They see Adrian as some controlling CEO." She studied Rowan's face, searching for answers. "Rowan, did you have anything to do with this? Be honest." He lifted his palms in a show of innocence. "I didn't create it, if that's what you mean. But if someone's out there exposing Adrian's alleged tactics, is that so bad?" A smirk tugged at his lips. Miles crossed his arms. "It feels dirty. Even if Dad can be cold, This video is basically sentencing him in the court of public opinion. Rowan's expression hardened, voice dropping. Listen, your father's trying to paint your mom as a cheater and a fraud. He's freezing her accounts, blocking my gallery. This levels the playing field. Sometimes you need a strong counterpunch. Vanessa swallowed, conflicting emotions swirling. But if it's fake, I never wanted to stoop this low. She thought of the night she first drifted from Adrian loneliness, that sense of being invisible. But forging a video? This felt worlds apart from mere heartbreak. At that moment, the gallery door chimed, and a well-dressed woman in thick-framed glasses walked in. Rowan looked relieved. Vanessa, Miles, meet Sylvia Clark, a media consultant I've hired. She's helping us manage the press. Sylvia nodded politely, quickly diving into the situation. Vanessa, the public sees you as David against Goliath right now. That video might be questionable, but many believe it's authentic. They see your husband as a ruthless manipulator. Lean into that narrative. Miles stared, discomfort tightening his features. But what if the truth? Rowan cut him off. The truth is, your father's out to ruin us. Use every advantage. He won't hold back. Vanessa glanced at her phone, noticing missed calls from Adrian's lawyers. Fear jabbed at her. Rowan, if we push this and it's proven fake, there could be legal consequences. Rowan's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Just don't confirm or deny it. Let people draw their own conclusions. Miles pressed his lips together, wrestling with guilt. He recalled how he once admired Rowan's artistic passion, but now he saw a cunning side. Is Dad truly worse or just the scapegoat of this fiasco? Sylvia handed Vanessa a typed sheet. Talking points. If reporters call, emphasize Adrian's distant, controlling nature. Don't mention the video's origin, but express your shock if asked. Vanessa felt a surge of nausea. This is so orchestrated. But if she refused, Rowan might withdraw his support, and with her finances frozen, she felt trapped. Summoning what little resolve she had left, she nodded, forced a thin smile. All right, I appreciate your help. Rowan clasped her shoulder, guiding her away from Miles's earshot. Trust me, we're close to turning the tide. By the time Adrian proves this is fake, if he even can, the damage to his reputation will be done. Outside, a drizzle began to patter against the gallery's tall glass windows. Vanessa gazed at the gray sky, wishing for clarity. Am I just a pawn in Rowan's bigger game? A flicker of regret tugged at her heart, but she tamped it down. With the divorce lawsuits looming, she felt cornered, and Rowan was the only ally offering a path forward, even if that path felt morally shaky. Night cloaked the coal estate in hush and shadow. Rain whispered against the roof, echoing through the spacious halls. Celia sat on the living room couch, a physics textbook open on her lap. She hadn't turned a page in 15 minutes. Instead, her eyes drifted to the large family portrait on the mantel, a once happy quartet, Adrian, Vanessa, Miles, and her, all smiling in a summer sun. A muffled thump by the entry startled her. Miles? She called softly. Sure enough, her older brother stood there in damp shoes, an art toad over his shoulder. Yeah, he muttered, pushing wet strands of hair off his forehead. Rowan had me working on some promotional pieces for the gallery, like it even matters with everything going on. He dropped the tote with a sigh. Celia noticed the heaviness in his expression. You've seen the video, right? People at school keep asking me if Dad really said all that. It's so obviously not him. Yet rumors spread. Miles hesitated, lower lip quivering. Rowan insists we let the narrative roll. He says Dad's attacks are worse. Celia bit her lip. And what do you think? Miles sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I don't know. I'm angry at Dad for ignoring me all these years, but forging a video? That's crossing a line. It's a line Rowan doesn't seem to mind crossing. She pressed a hand on his shoulder. You can't let resentment drag you into something unethical. Dad's done some questionable things, but I doubt he'd create a fake video. This is insane. Miles's eyes darted away, guilt etched in them. Rowan's got this, the ends justify the means mentality. And Mom, she's in too deep, I guess. Celia tensed. Miles, you're not forced to keep supporting it if it's wrong. The flicker of her phone's screen caught her eye, a news alert about the deepfake scandal. See? Even some tech experts claim the clip has inconsistent lighting, mismatched lip movements. They suspect tampering. Before Miles could respond, the front door opened. Vanessa entered, soaked from the rain. She paused upon seeing her children. "What are you two still doing up?" Celia rose, eyes flashing with concern. "Mom, I can't sleep with all this going on, and that video, what if it's proven false? Dad will retaliate in court. He's not going to let it slide." Vanessa wrapped her arms around herself, the tension in her shoulders evident. "Look, I didn't create that video, okay? Rowan told me it's not our responsibility if someone else decided to expose your father." Her tone was defensive, yet uncertain. Miles exchanged a look with Celia. "Mom, it still feels wrong." Vanessa's face softened, torn between defiance and remorse. "I never wanted a smear campaign, but your father's the one who started freezing our accounts, calling me a fraud, humiliating me publicly. Rowan says this is just leveling the playing field." Celia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Please, can we not escalate this further? If Dad debunks the video, you'll lose credibility in court. And if Rowan actually orchestrated it, you could be implicated." Vanessa flinched, a tear glistening at the corner of her eye. "I just want the pain to stop," she whispered. "All those years feeling second to Dad's ambitions. Now I'm in a storm I never imagined." Miles gently placed a hand on her arm. "Then let's find a better way. This is a ticking time bomb." A sudden ring cut through the hush Vanessa's phone. She glanced at the screen, brow furrowing. It's Rowan again. She hesitated, then rejected the call. The living room fell silent. Outside, rain tapped steadily on the glass walls, reflecting the family's strained silhouettes. Finally, Vanessa pulled herself together, her voice thick with fatigue. "I need to shower and get some rest. We'll talk in the morning." She ascended the winding staircase, leaving Celia and Miles standing amidst the house's quiet grandeur. Miles exhaled. "I never thought we'd end up like this. Schemes, lies, a fake video. It's like we're living in some twisted drama." Celia closed her textbook, unspoken sorrow weighing heavily in the air. "And the worst part is Dad's not picking up any calls," she said softly. "Mom tried him earlier, and he just ignored it. This family is falling apart." They stood in that uneasy stillness a moment longer, the glow of the overhead chandelier casting them in a lonely light. With a family so fractured, Celia thought, what's left to salvage? A week later, tension ran high as a last-minute emergency hearing convened at the county courthouse. Journalists milled about in the lobby, hungry for updates on the sensational Cole divorce case. The rumored fake evidence had drawn massive attention, with outlets on both sides speculating about the video's authenticity. Adrian arrived flanked by Devlin Price and a calm-faced Briar Ashcroft. His expression was resolute, though faint lines of strain marked his features. Across the aisle sat Vanessa, her new lawyer, and a visibly anxious Miles. Celia had chosen to sit behind Adrian, having voiced support for uncovering the truth. The presiding judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, rapped her gavel. "We are here on an urgent motion regarding newly surfaced video evidence allegedly involving Mr. Adrian Cole. Counselors, proceed." Devlin stood, posture confident. "Your Honor, the video in question is a forgery, a deepfake crafted to undermine my client's reputation. Our forensic analysis from expert Harvey Cruz will demonstrate inconsistencies in lighting, voice waveform mismatch, and composite layering." He signaled to Briar, who began setting up a short presentation. Vanessa's attorney interjected, "Objection, how do we know this so-called forensic analysis is unbiased?" The judge nodded. "Noted. We'll hear from Mr. Cruz and then evaluate the reliability." A projector displayed side-by-side frames of the viral video. Harvey Cruz, a slight man with wire-rimmed glasses, explained, "Here, we see the subject's mouth movements don't align with the shadows across his face. Also, the voice track waveforms show splicing artifacts." He clicked to another slide. "No known device from that era records footage in this specific compression pattern. It's artificially layered." A ripple of murmurs moved through the small audience. The judge studied the evidence, lips pursed. Finally, she turned to Vanessa's side. "Any counter-evidence?" Vanessa's attorney stood, looking unsettled. "We question whether Mr. Cole could be covering his tracks by claiming a deepfake. But if the technology is proven, we have no direct evidence to authenticate the video's original source. From behind Vanessa, Miles twisted his fingers together, guilt swirling in his eyes. He knew Rowan was behind it, or at least heavily involved. Vanessa herself glanced away, anxiety etched on her face. Devlin pressed on. Additionally, we have an audio recording that reveals a conspiracy to produce false narratives against my client recorded by Miss Celia Cole. May we introduce that as Exhibit B? A hush fell. The judge motioned him to continue. Celia approached the stand nervously. Her voice trembled, but she remained determined. I'm sorry, Mom, Miles. I just did what I thought was right. She played the clip, Rowan's voice urging exaggerations, Miles and Vanessa discussing how to portray Adrian as controlling if necessary. Vanessa's mouth fell open in dismay. A flush crept up her neck. Miles buried his face in his hands. The spectators' reporters, a few interested onlookers, exchanged astonished glances. When the recording ended, the judge's gaze sharpened. Mrs. Cole, it sounds like you considered embellishing allegations. Vanessa's lawyer quickly rose. Your Honor, my client was encouraged by outside influences. The judge held up a hand. Regardless, this casts doubt on the veracity of your claims, Mrs. Cole. Combined with the deepfake evidence, it appears Mr. Cole is indeed the target of fabricated allegations. A hushed breath escaped Adrian, relief mingled with lingering bitterness. Devlin cleared his throat, pressing home the advantage. We request the court revoke any additional spousal support expansions and restore the prior arrangement until full clarity on these false claims is reached. Vanessa blinked back tears. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then hesitated. Her attorney whispered urgently in her ear, but she seemed too shaken to respond coherently. The judge deliberated for a tense moment. At last she spoke. The court hereby nullifies any recent motions favoring Mrs. Cole's case that may have been influenced by the false video. We restore the earlier terms a modest provisional support, pending further inquiry. Additionally, I'm notifying law enforcement to investigate potential fraudulent activities involving deepfake technology. We need to identify the responsible parties. The gavel struck, concluding the session. Media crews scrambled for quotes. Adrian stood, exhaling a ragged breath. Breyer squeezed his shoulder in a silent gesture of triumph. Across the aisle, Vanessa all but crumpled, head bowed. Miles hovered at her side, torn between loyalty and remorse. Outside in the corridor, Devlin turned to Adrian. We did it. The video's discredited. With the judge pulling law enforcement in, Rowan won't escape scrutiny. Adrian's features remained grim. He'll try something else, I'm sure, but at least for now, we've proven the truth. From behind them, Celia approached. Dad, she said quietly. I'm sorry it had to come to this. Mom looks devastated. Adrian's voice was gentle. I know, but she made choices. We all did. His gaze drifted to the courthouse doors, where Vanessa was being pelted with reporters' questions. Next to her, a silent Miles seemed at a loss. Then, stepping around the corner, Vaughn Trace appeared, phone in hand. Adrian, a heads up. Our sources say Rowan might have deeper ties to suspicious financial operations. It's unraveling fast. Adrian's eyes flared with a mix of resolve and apprehension. Then let the police handle it. I've done enough to protect myself, my company, and... He paused, looking at Celia. What remains of our family? Celia's eyes glistened. She offered a small nod. One step at a time, she whispered. As they walked out into the bright afternoon light, cameras flashed once again, capturing the triumphant but solemn expressions on Adrian's side. The scandal of the deepfake had turned the legal tides back in his favor. Yet a distant worry nagged. Rowan and his secret dealings weren't finished stirring chaos. A crisp morning sun cast long shadows across the city's skyline, bouncing off the steel and glass headquarters of Cole Architectural. Adrian Cole paced in his top-floor office, tension bristling beneath his polished demeanor. Boxes of legal files cluttered the corners, visual proof that his divorce and the fallout from the deepfake scandal had practically consumed his life. Yet today another wave of trouble loomed. Devlin Price, the district attorney and Adrian's longtime friend, strode in with purposeful steps. He placed a slim folder on Adrian's desk. I have news regarding Rowan Donnell, he said, tone grim. It's worse than we suspected. Adrian gestured for him to continue. His gaze flicked to Briar Ashcroft, who was also in the room, quietly taking notes. Devlin opened the folder, revealing official documents and photographs. Rowan's gallery has been under discreet financial surveillance for months, Devlin began. Apparently, he's linked to an organized ring suspected of laundering money for an infamous figure called Salvatore. We've heard that name in hushed circles, but no one pinned him down. Rowan's arrangement with Salvatore might involve funneling illicit funds through art deals, overpricing paintings, rotating them between shell corporations, that kind of scam. Adrian clenched his fists. Which means Rowan's criminal entanglements go far beyond forging videos or messing with my family. He's dangerously connected. Devlin nodded, worry creasing his brow. Exactly. The feds are ramping up an investigation. Once the deepfake fiasco pinned attention on Rowan, his entire operation got scrutiny from multiple agencies. Now some folks believe your wife, Vanessa, may also be tangled up. She did invest in Rowan's gallery, after all. A muscle in Adrian's jaw twitched. Vanessa is naive, not malicious. She wouldn't knowingly launder money. But the press loves a scandal, and the rumor mill is vicious. Briar lifted her gaze from her notes. We should do preemptive damage control, sir. The last thing we need is people thinking Cole Architectural is tied to criminal networks. Devlin exhaled. One more thing. Given Rowan's dealings, Salvatore's men might feel threatened by all the public exposure. If Rowan is forced into a corner, he could flip on them or they might silence him. Either way, I'd step up your personal security, especially for Vanessa too if she's rumored to be part of his schemes. Adrian rubbed a hand over his face, the magnitude of the mess sinking in. I'll talk to Vaughn Trace will enhance security protocols, but Vanessa's living separately right now, and I'm not sure she'll welcome my help. Devlin's expression softened. Sometimes people need protecting whether they welcome it or not. Don't let personal wounds overshadow real danger. Just then, Briar's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her eyes widening. Sir, a local news outlet is running a segment tonight. They're claiming Vanessa Cole. Unwitting accomplice or cunning conspirator. The anchor wants a statement. Adrian set his jaw. Damn, Rowan. He's dragging all of us into a deeper pit. He turned to Devlin. All right. Thank you for the update. Let me know if you learn anything else about Salvatore or Rowan's network. Meanwhile, I'll ensure Vanessa and the kids have protection. I may despise her choices, but I won't let them come to harm. Devlin gathered his folder. Stay vigilant, Adrian. With criminals like Salvatore, things can escalate fast. And Rowan, who knows what he'll do if cornered? As Devlin left, a grim silence settled in the office. Adrian stared out the panoramic windows, the city shimmering in the morning light. From a betrayal in my marriage to a run-in with organized crime? This is more than I ever anticipated. Yet the calm steel in his eyes suggested he wouldn't back down. Where Rowan wove chaos, Adrian would respond with methodical precision. The flicker of a street lamp cast dancing shadows across the sidewalk in a quiet residential district. Miles Cole stepped out of a rideshare, having spent much of the evening at a friend's makeshift art studio. He clutched a worn sketchbook brimming with half-formed ideas. Art was his only solace in this swirling family drama. He approached the modest apartment building where he'd been staying temporarily. The building's old bricks glowed under the faint light of the lamp overhead. A security camera perched near the entrance, but the gloom seemed to swallow its watchful presence. Miles fished for his keys, fighting an uneasy feeling gnawing at his gut. Rowan's gallery is under scrutiny. Mom's labeled a potential accomplice. Dad's on the warpath. He shook his head, wanting a moment's peace. As he slid his key into the door, he noticed it was already unlocked unusual. Heart pounding, he pushed it open and stepped into darkness. Hello? He called softly, flicking the light switch. Nothing. The overhead fixture remained dead. A metallic clang made him jerk around. The living room was mostly shadows, the faint city glow through the window the only illumination. Anyone here? He glanced at the floor, noticing shards of glass, a broken bottle. Then, swiftly, a presence loomed behind him. Miles barely had time to react before something slammed into his shoulder, sending him stumbling. A masked figure pinned him, a gloved hand clamped over his mouth. Terror and adrenaline surged. Who? With sudden force, the intruder jerked him backward. Miles's phone slipped from his pocket, clattering onto the floor. Heart hammering, he tried to fight back, but he was no match for the assailant's brute strength. In the dim glow, he caught a glimpse of a second figure rummaging through his scattered papers. Then everything went black. Late the same night at the Cole estate, Celia scrolled anxiously through social media, dreading the swirl of rumors about her mother's alleged criminal ties. She glanced at the clock nearly midnight and frowned. Miles said he'd text me when he got home. Nothing so far. That uneasy prickle she'd felt earlier returned. She stepped into the hallway where she found Vanessa leaning against a wall, phone in hand. They hadn't been living together, but Vanessa had come by earlier to discuss some legal documents with Celia and found herself lingering after a heated argument over the rumored money laundering. The tension in the house was a far cry from peace, but at least mother and daughter were talking. "Mom," Celia said quietly, "did Miles text you? He's not answering me." Vanessa's eyes reflected worry. "No, he usually messages by now." Celia's phone buzzed. She snatched it up, hope sparking only to see an unfamiliar number. The text read, "We have your boy. Exchange Rowan's evidence if you want him back. More instructions soon." Her heart dropped like a stone. "Mom, look at this." She showed Vanessa, who blanched, shock etching every feature. "What is this sick joke?" Vanessa breathed, voice shaking. Celia's mind raced, recalling how Rowan's network was under investigation. Could these people believe Miles has some incriminating evidence about Rowan? Adrian had mentioned something about Rowan's shady deals. She clutched the phone, panic mounting. "We have to tell Dad." Vanessa hesitated, fear, guilt, and pride all colliding. But as a mother, the choice was clear. She nodded, tears brimming. Yes, right now. Less than half an hour later, Adrian stood in the estate's living room, a grim expression as he read the kidnapper's text on Celia's phone. Vaughn Trace was beside him, already tapping instructions into his own device. Meanwhile, Vanessa paced, eyes redrimmed, arms crossed around her trembling body. Adrian turned to them. "They think we're holding Rowan's evidence. Maybe they assume we have something linking Rowan to Salvatore's ring." Celia's voice wobbled. "But we have nothing. Dad, they're going to hurt Miles if we don't do something." Vaughn pocketed his phone. "I've notified the police. They'll start looking for leads searching traffic cams near Miles's place. But kidnappers usually demand specifics quickly. We need a strategy." Vanessa spun around to face Adrian. "You must have some angle. You're always calculating. Please help him." Adrian's jaw hardened. "I won't let anything happen to our son." A swirl of complicated emotions coursed through him: resentment toward Miles's betrayals, heartbreak for the family fracturing, and an unwavering paternal instinct to protect. "But we have to keep calm. If these people are tied to Salvatore, they're serious criminals." Celia sniffed, stepping closer. "We can't just wait. They said more instructions soon." "That means they'll text again, right?" Vaughn nodded. "Very likely. We'll be ready to trace any call or text, though professional criminals often use untraceable burners. Still, we'll try everything." Vanessa's phone buzzed. She froze, then held it up. A new message read, "Adrian Cole has what we want. If you want your son alive, have him deliver Rowan's evidence alone. We'll be in touch with the location and time." Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. "They're demanding you personally, Adrian." Adrian gently took the phone, reading the text with cold precision. "They're certain I'm hoarding incriminating documents. We do have some evidence regarding Rowan's finances, but nothing that's damning enough to make them so desperate unless they believe it is." Vaughn locked eyes with Adrian. "It's likely a bluff on their side, but they'll kill to protect their operation. We'll have to stage a trap, some kind of false exchange." Adrian inhaled slowly, forcibly steadying himself. "Yes, we'll coordinate with Devlin and the police. They want me to come alone, but we'll have a backup ready. If this is the only way to keep Miles alive, so be it." Vanessa slumped onto a sofa, burying her face in her hands. "I can't believe this is happening. Rowan's chaos, my mistakes have led us here." Celia approached and hugged her mother from behind, tears tracking down her own cheeks. "We'll get him back, Mom." We just have to be strong. Adrian's gaze flicked to the stormy night sky beyond the windows. From a lying spouse to a near-lethal custody battle to kidnapping by criminals, how did we reach this abyss? But beneath the swirl of anger, fear, and heartbreak, a fierce resolve glowed. He was Adrian Cole. He'd fight for his child, no matter the cost. Midnight draped the outskirts of the city in moonlit desolation. A cluster of abandoned warehouses sprawled near an old freight line, their corrugated metal walls tarnished by rust and graffiti. The kidnappers had chosen this remote spot for the exchange, a perfect setting for clandestine dealings. Adrian drove alone, as demanded, headlights cutting through the darkness. In the back seat lay a slim briefcase containing carefully assembled evidence Vaughn and Devlin had fabricated. Random financial printouts, meaningless documents that might pass as Rowan's incriminating data if one didn't look too closely. They hoped it would buy time. He parked near a battered loading dock. The wind rattled loose sheets of metal, producing an eerie chorus. Stepping out, he scanned the shadows. No sign of Miles or anyone else. Heart pounding, he kept his phone in a jacket pocket, a single press away from alerting Vaughn and Devlin, who were hidden nearby with a small SWAT team. This was a precarious balancing act. A second too soon, and they might spook the captors. A second too late, and Miles could die. A voice echoed from the darkness, thick with menace. "Cole, you alone?" Adrian turned, spotting the outline of a man behind a stack of crates. "Yes, I came as you asked." A figure stepped forward, pistol in hand, face obscured by a knit mask. Another silhouette appeared at the man's flank, slender, also armed. "Show us the evidence," the first man growled. Adrian raised the briefcase slowly. "Here. Financial records, bank statements, everything Rowan used to cut deals. Let my son go." A slight commotion to the left drew Adrian's gaze. He saw Miles tied at the wrists, stumbling into view. His hair was disheveled, face sporting a bruise under one eye. But otherwise he appeared alive. Relief soared through Adrian, fueling a cold clarity. I must keep him safe. One of the captors gripped Miles's shoulder, pressing a gun to his temple. "We'll take that briefcase. Then we'll see if the kid lives." The man jerked his chin at the second figure, who strode forward, weapon aimed at Adrian. Gritting his teeth, Adrian placed the briefcase on the ground and nudged it forward with his foot. His mind raced. They might shoot us both anyway. He needed to send the signal for Vaughn's team, but not too hastily. Miles was still in direct line of fire. As the second figure crouched to open the briefcase, rummaging inside, the first man barked, "Is this everything? Rowan said you had more." Adrian steadied his voice. "That's all of it. Rowan was paranoid. I told you this is what you want." Miles locked eyes with Adrian, silent terror in his gaze. He tried to speak around the gag, but only muffled sounds emerged. Adrian's heart clenched. He took a subtle step forward. "Let him go. You have your documents." The second man rummaged quickly, his posture tense. He turned to the first man. "Looks real," he muttered, though uncertain. "Plenty of numbers, bank logs, maybe we can verify." He rifled further, suspicious. "I don't see Rowan's signature. Could be a trick." The leader shoved Miles forward a step, gun never leaving him. "You'd better not be playing us, Cole." His finger twitched near the trigger. Adrian's pulse thundered. This was it, the moment. He pressed the hidden button in his jacket pocket. Vaughn's earpiece would receive the signal. Meanwhile, he stared the kidnapper down. "Check thoroughly. If you want more proof, I can answer questions, but release my son now." Before the man could reply, a sharp squeal of metal erupted as the overhead warehouse door slammed open. In an instant, black-clad figures SWAT poured in from the far side, shouting, "Freeze! Drop your weapons!" Pandemonium broke out. The second captor raised his gun at the approaching SWAT, firing off 2 shots that ricocheted wildly. The first captor, cursing, yanked Miles backward, gun pinned to his side. Adrian lunged, knocking into the man's arm. A shot cracked through the air, echoing in the cavernous space. Pain seared Adrian's forearm as a bullet grazed him. He ignored it, adrenaline surging. He had to prevent them from shooting Miles. SWAT officers advanced, shouting commands. The second captor fell to a precise sniper shot, gun clattering to the concrete. The first, furious and desperate, tried to drag Miles behind a crate. Adrian latched onto the kidnapper's weapon hand. They wrestled, the muzzle skittering dangerously close to both men. Miles staggered free, gasping for air. A second shot rang out from the darkness, likely a SWAT sniper. The captor jerked, going limp as the bullet found its mark. Adrian stumbled back, chest heaving, eyes wide. The warehouse reverberated with echoes of gunfire. In seconds, the chaos ended, the captors either subdued or incapacitated. Officers rushed to secure the site. Breathing raggedly, Adrian hurried to Miles, who sank to his knees in shock. Blood trickled from the corner of Miles's mouth, but he looked relatively uninjured beyond bruises. "Dad," he managed, voice trembling, tears shining in his eyes. Adrian wrapped an arm around him, ignoring the stinging burn on his own forearm. "I've got you," he said, voice thick. "You're safe now." Devlin and Vaughn emerged from behind a row of crates. Vaughn quickly knelt beside Adrian, examining the graze. "You'll live, just a flesh wound." Then he turned to Miles with a fatherly air. "Kid, you gave us quite a scare." Miles nodded weakly, tears slipping down his cheeks. I thought they were going to kill me." He reached up, clasping Adrian's shoulder. "Dad, I'm sorry for everything. Just thank you." Adrian's heart twisted with a blend of paternal relief and heartbreak. He helped Miles to his feet as paramedics rushed in. "We'll talk later," Adrian said softly. "For now, let's get you checked out." He looked at Devlin, who was on the phone instructing police about the scene. "Any sign of Rowan?" Devlin shook his head. "No, the kidnappers are connected to Salvatore's ring, but Rowan's name isn't on the list. He's probably in hiding. We'll keep an eye out." Adrian swallowed, adrenaline still surging. The swirl of redan blue lights bathed the old warehouse walls, a far cry from the calm order of Cole Architectural. All this because of Rowan's shady dealings, and we're still not done. As paramedics led Miles away to an ambulance, Adrian lingered, pressing a palm to the bullet crease in his sleeve. Pain flared, but it was overshadowed by relief. "Vaughn, good work," he murmured. "We'd have lost him otherwise." Vaughn dipped his head in acknowledgement. "You did your part too. Brave of you to lunge in there." Adrian exhaled unsteadily. "He's my son. Even if trust is broken, I still have a duty to protect him." In the background, SWAT combed the scene, searching for any stragglers. Devlin waved them over. "This place is secure. We found some documents that might link these guys directly to Salvatore. Let's see if that helps corner Rowan." His gaze shifted to Adrian. "You'd better get medical attention, friend." Adrian grimaced with a ghost of a smile. "I've endured worse. But sure." He looked out at the bullet-riddled crates, the swirling ambulance lights, the reflection of his own face in a puddle on the concrete floor. "Everything is unraveling, but at least my son is safe for now." Dawn broke hazy and pink over the city's industrial zone, painting the battered warehouse in eerie pastels. The aftermath of the SWAT raid was still fresh yellow police tape fluttered, bullet casings glittered in the debris, and half the paramedics had only just left. In the corner of the lot, an ambulance served as a makeshift station where Miles sat on a folding chair, blanket draped over his shoulders. He looked pale, sporting bruises, but he was conscious and stable. Adrian, an ugly graze wrapped on his arm, stood beside him. He maintained a controlled composure, but his eyes betrayed deep worry. A second ambulance door slammed, revealing Vanessa stepping out in a rush. She had arrived minutes earlier, frantic to see Miles. "Baby!" she gasped, running forward. She enveloped him in a trembling hug. "Oh, God, are you okay?" Miles let out a shaky breath. "Mom, I'm all right, just battered." He gestured to his bruised face. "They said no serious injuries. I'll be sore for a while." Vanessa clutched his hand, tears streaking her cheeks. She then glanced up at Adrian. "I heard you saved him. You risked your life." Adrian gave a tiny shrug, looking away. "I did what any father would. The rest was the SWAT team's skill." The tension between them lingered, but raw relief momentarily bridged the chasm. "You should thank Vaughn and Devlin for the coordination." Vanessa's eyes darted to Adrian's bandaged arm. "You're hurt." He shook his head. "A scratch. Nothing more." Nearby, Celia arrived, escorted by Vaughn, who'd picked her up from the estate. She rushed over to Miles, tears welling. "You scared me so much." Miles tried a feeble smile. "Sorry, but hey, I'm in one piece." While they exchanged emotional relief, Devlin approached with a phone in hand. "I just got word. Rowan Donnell is missing. He fled his usual addresses. My guess? He's trying to skip town. The men who took Miles might have done so to force Adrian to hand over any evidence that could incriminate them. Maybe Rowan sold them the idea that Adrian was the bigger threat." He sighed. "It's all speculation." Adrian exhaled sharply. "The fact Rowan's gone means he's likely running from Salvatore, too. If the kidnappers turned up dead or arrested, Rowan could be next on Salvatore's hit list." Vanessa looked alarmed. "But that means if Rowan's cornered, he might do anything to save himself." Devlin nodded. "Precisely. If law enforcement doesn't nab him first, Salvatore's men might—" He lifted his gaze to Adrian. "We should be prepared for more fallout. People with nothing to lose can be dangerous." A hush fell. An approaching officer politely asked Adrian for a final statement about the incident. Adrian left for a moment to handle official questions, leaving Celia, Miles, and Vanessa in a small cluster. The siblings exchanged a significant glance. So much has changed, Celia thought, but at least he's safe. Vanessa rubbed Miles's shoulder. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. If I had known how dangerous Rowan's connections were, I never would have let you near him." Miles swallowed. "Mom, I wanted someone to appreciate my art. Dad was always so busy. I fell into Rowan's sweet talk." His voice cracked. "And it almost got me killed." Vanessa's eyes shimmered with regret. "I failed you too. I got pulled into Rowan's promises of an exciting life, away from the shadow of your father's success. Now I see the cost." Celia slid an arm around Miles's waist, pulling him into a side hug. "At least we're okay," she whispered. "We can fix some things, right?" Nearby, Devlin concluded a phone call and turned to them. "The police want you all to stay accessible in case they need more statements. Meanwhile, you should get Miles home to rest." Adrian rejoined them, speaking quietly. "I'll drive you to a safe place. The estate is heavily guarded now. We can put aside the feud at least until you and Miles recover." Vanessa wiped a tear and nodded. "All right." She looked uncertain. "Thank you. I know you have every reason to push us away, but—" "Enough," Adrian said, not unkindly. "This is about safety, not trust. Vaughn has extra security at the estate. We'll talk about everything else once we're sure you're both out of harm's way." Miles stood, wincing. "Thanks, Dad. I owe you my life." Adrian gave a faint nod. No more words needed. The emotional gulf remained wide, but paternal duty overshadowed the bitterness, at least for the moment. When they arrived at the estate, dawn was fully broken. Vaughn's security detail guarded the gates, scanning passers-by, suspicious of any unmarked car. The lavish house that had once symbolized stability now felt like a fortress under siege. The group filed inside, exhaustion etched on their faces. Celia quietly led Miles to a guest room so he could rest. Meanwhile, Adrian paused in the foyer, watching as Vanessa hovered uncertainly by the staircase. "You can stay, if you want," he offered, his tone even. "At least until the police confirm Rowan's arrest or Salvatore's men stand down." She managed a small nod, voice hoarse. "Thank you. And for saving Miles, I'll never forget what you did, no matter our differences." His gaze flicked away. "He's my son, Vanessa. That's all there is to it." An awkward silence stretched. They both carried too many wounds, resentments, and regrets. Then, deciding there was nothing left to say, Vanessa ascended the stairs to check on Miles, leaving Adrian alone in the grand foyer. He stared at the glass panels that made up the walls of his prized home. Glass so transparent yet so fragile, he mused. This entire ordeal hammered home the reality that success and wealth couldn't shield one from betrayal or violence. They were all breakable, each scar a reminder of missteps. Moments later, Vaughn entered, phone at his side. "We have more intel. Rowan's abandoned car was found near the train station. He's gone to ground." Adrian's lips tightened. "He'll resurface eventually. Probably running from Salvatore or the law. Either way, I won't rest until he's behind bars. That man caused too much damage to my family." Vaughn nodded. We'll keep searching. Meanwhile, you should see a doctor for that arm. You're bleeding through the bandage. Adrian glanced down at the red seeping through the gauze. Strange how the physical pain felt distant compared to the emotional storm raging within. Fine, he said, mustering a stoic front. I'll handle it. As Vaughn stepped away, Adrian stood there in the hush of his once quiet domain. The house that had been a testament to his architectural genius was now a fortress for battered hearts. In the shimmering reflection of the glass, he saw a man who had nearly lost everything yet fought back with unwavering resolve. That unwavering drive saved Miles tonight. But Rowan Donnell was still out there, Salvatore's network still threatened. The final reckoning awaited. With a weary sigh, Adrian turned and walked deeper into the home, bracing himself for the next battle. He had saved his son. Now it was time to preserve whatever shards remained of the Cole family, even if some of those broken edges would never quite fit back together again. A gray drizzle coated the courthouse steps early that morning, the damp skies matching the somber mood of the crowd gathered outside. News vans lined the curb, reporters jostling for angles. This time, the marquee case wasn't just the Cole divorce. It was Rowan Donnell and multiple co-defendants facing criminal charges: racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. A swirl of headlines read, Art World Facade Exposed and Donnell Ties to Underground Ring. Adrian Cole arrived in a dark overcoat, quietly weaving past the press. Though not on trial himself, he was a key witness to Rowan's manipulations and had personal stake in the proceedings. Briar Ashcroft accompanied him, clutching a folder of documents, prepared to answer any financial queries about Cole Architectural's entanglement in Rowan's scheme. Inside, the courthouse halls hummed with low tension. Vanessa Cole sat on a bench near the prosecution's waiting area. She wore a simple black dress, appearing tired yet resolute. Her eyes flicked up when Adrian approached. They hadn't spoken much since Miles's kidnapping and rescue. Now she forced a faint nod. I just want all of this finished. Adrian offered a short, understanding nod. So do I. Nearby, Miles hovered, shoulders slumped. He wore a plain shirt and jeans, the bruises from the abduction nearly faded but not forgotten. He spotted his father and gave a small wave. Adrian returned it, subdued. Despite everything, father and son had found a tentative truce, at least outwardly. At the far end, Devlin Price conferred with a team of federal prosecutors. The lead prosecutor, an assertive woman named Marla Sandoval, tapped a stack of legal briefs. Donnell's counsel claims he might turn state's evidence, naming Salvatore as the real kingpin. If he does, it could lighten his sentence. Devlin glanced at Adrian. Then let him name names. The deeper we cut into Salvatore's operation, the better. He turned to Adrian. I'll want you on standby. Rowan's expected to mention your name, maybe to cast blame or depict you as an unwitting victim. We'll see. A bailiff opened the courtroom doors and the parties filed in. The wood-paneled room crackled with anticipation. At the defense table sat Rowan, face drawn, hair slightly disheveled, wearing a crisp suit that couldn't hide his fatigue. He flicked a glance across the aisle, meeting Adrian's stare for one fraught instant, a silent acknowledgement of how far they had fallen. The judge, a no-nonsense man named Judge Whitaker, called the session to order. Then the charges were read aloud, detailing Rowan's alleged role in laundering illicit funds through Donnell Gallery, inflating art prices, funneling money to front corporations. The hush in the courtroom grew thick. Rowan's defense attorney tried to paint him as a mere middleman, pointing to Salvatore's larger syndicate. In a surprising twist, Rowan's lawyer announced that Rowan wished to make a statement. I, Rowan Donnell, plead guilty to conspiracy and fraud, he said, voice subdued. I've agreed to cooperate fully, providing evidence on the man known as Salvatore. A murmur spread among the spectators. Adrian felt a small, cold satisfaction. Rowan is cornered and now flipping on Salvatore. For all Rowan's cunning, he was ultimately another pawn in a bigger game. As prosecutors outlined Rowan's wrongdoing, they also clarified that neither Vanessa nor Cole Architectural was complicit. Vanessa's funds were seized but later returned once her ignorance of the criminal aspect was established. The judge recognized her as a victim of Rowan's deception. When asked for comment, Vanessa stepped forward briefly, hands trembling. I invested in Rowan Donnell's gallery believing it was legitimate. I never wanted any involvement with money laundering or criminal networks, she said, voice thick with remorse. I realized my trust was misplaced. Rowan listened, expression unreadable. At times, he seemed to resent that his former partner was now safe from charges, while he faced the full brunt of the law. By late afternoon, the judge set Rowan's formal sentencing for a later date, pending further cooperation. The hearing concluded with a swirl of voices and the clang of the gavel. As the room emptied, a wave of relief, yet also unresolved tension drifted among the Cole family. Rowan was no longer an immediate threat, but the damage he wrought personally, emotionally remained. Outside, a drizzle still misted the streets. Vanessa lingered near the courthouse exit, exhaling shakily. Adrian approached. "He'll face prison, I'm sure." She nodded. "I'm grateful he can't hurt us anymore, or drag us further down." Adrian's gaze flicked to Miles, who stood a few feet away, quietly absorbing the scene. "We can move on now," Adrian said softly, though he understood their moving on diverged in different directions. And so, the criminal spectacle ended with Rowan's admission of guilt. Salvatore loomed in the shadows, the next target of a mounting federal crackdown. For Adrian, the day closed a dark chapter 1 that had overshadowed his family and nearly destroyed them. Bright morning light streamed through the wide windows of a distinguished law office downtown. On a polished wooden desk lay a stack of final divorce settlement documents. Adrian Cole arrived, feeling a familiar heaviness in his chest. This was the day he'd finalized the legal severance of his marriage to Vanessa. The air smelled of fresh coffee and documents, a muted hush settling over the waiting area. Miles and Celia sat side by side on a plush couch, exchanging worried glances. Vanessa approached from the corridor, guided by her lawyer, Patricia Whittam. She looked subdued in a simple blouse and skirt, her posture carrying the weight of acceptance. "Morning," Adrian said quietly. Vanessa managed a polite nod. They followed the attorneys into a glass-walled conference room. A poised judge pro tempore, Judge Elwood, oversaw these final proceedings. He cleared his throat, scanning the settlement terms. "We have the agreement specifying the distribution of assets," he began. "Based on the court's prior findings infidelity, attempted financial fraud, and certain extenuating circumstances, the property division acknowledges Mr. Cole's superior claims. Mrs. Cole will receive a smaller share, a fraction that is nonetheless legally mandated." Adrian said nothing, a tight line forming on his lips. Vanessa stared at her clasped hands. She'd known this was coming, but hearing it finalized still stung. The judge proceeded. "Additionally, the matter of the children. Celia, age 17, chooses to remain with her father. Miles is 19, already an adult, but the settlement acknowledges a transitional period. He is free to live independently, though Mr. Cole may provide some support at his discretion." Miles shifted uncomfortably, recalling how he'd conspired with Rowan, only to nearly lose his life. A swirl of guilt and relief mingled in him, relief that the legal battles concluded, guilt over his role in exacerbating them. Finally, the judge addressed a last detail, Miles's involvement in forging or promoting the deepfake. Because of Celia's recorded evidence, he faced legal repercussions, though no jail time. The official penalty was a suspended sentence with community service for misrepresentation and conspiracy to defraud, albeit at a lower severity than if he'd been older or more directly involved. The judge's final note: "You must complete 200 hours of community service, maintain good behavior, or risk further legal action." Miles nodded, cheeks coloring. "I understand, Your Honor." With a heavy sigh, Judge Elwood concluded, "Very well, let's sign these documents." Papers were passed around, pens scratched on dotted lines. At last, the divorce was official. "Best of luck to all parties," the judge said stiffly before leaving them in uncomfortable silence. Adrian turned to Vanessa. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but she held them back. "I'll move out of the city," she murmured. "It's too painful here. I want a fresh start." Adrian dipped his head. "You do what you feel is right." No hostility laced his tone, just a weary acceptance. Miles stood, clearing his throat. I might stay here a bit, at least until the community service is sorted out." but maybe I'll follow Mom eventually. I haven't decided. Celia stepped forward, voice gentle. I'll miss you both, but I respect your choices. She shot her father a shy glance. I think I'll finish high school here. Keep helping Dad if he needs it. Vanessa's gaze flicked from Celia to Adrian. So many regrets, it said silently. Then she lifted her purse, squaring her shoulders. All right, I suppose this is goodbye. The hush was thick with unspoken apologies and lingering sorrow. Adrian simply nodded. There would be no dramatic hugging or tears in front of the lawyers. The family was fractured beyond quick repairs. Miles gave Celia a quick sibling hug and offered a timid handshake to his father, who accepted it with a forced half-smile. Then, mother and son left. The door shutting behind them felt like the closing of a final chapter. Celia exhaled, stepping to her father's side. You okay? He shrugged, tension evident. I expected this, but it still aches. He caught her hand and squeezed gently. Let's go home. Weeks later, in a newly renovated office at Cole Architectural, Adrian sat reviewing design proposals for a forthcoming glass tower. The hustle and bustle outside had returned to normal since the scandal died down. The stock price had stabilized, public sympathy for Adrian soared after the deepfake revelations, and Rowan's indictment had quashed rumors that the firm was complicit in money laundering. Celia popped her head in. Dad, a courier dropped this envelope, no return address, she said, handing over a thick beige envelope. Adrian frowned, sliding his letter opener through the seal. Inside was a folded piece of stationery, neat handwriting scrawled in a style he recognized. Vanessa's. He felt a pang as he read, Adrian, I know I no longer have the right to ask for your forgiveness, but I must express my deepest remorse. I allowed my loneliness and pride to drive me into Rowan's deceitful orbit. I was a fool. You saved Miles from horrors beyond imagining, and for that, I will always be grateful. I cannot undo the harm I caused. The heartbreak, the scandal, the betrayal. I only hope one day you might remember me with less anger. Thank you for everything you once gave me: stability, security, a life I was too blind to cherish. I'm starting over in a small apartment, rebuilding bit by bit. If Miles decides to join me, I'll do my best to support him. I'm sorry, Adrian. For all of it. Vanessa. He read it twice, chest tightening at each word. A swirl of emotions flickered: anger, sorrow, pity, perhaps a faint empathy. He recalled their early marriage, Vanessa's brightness, how she championed his architectural dreams, how they built a family. Then everything fell apart, he thought. Celia lingered, sensing her father's tension. Dad? You all right? Without replying, Adrian neatly folded the letter. Part of him wanted to preserve it, to cling to the glimmer that she understood her wrongdoing. Another part insisted he sever all emotional ties for good. Eventually, he stood, walked to the office shredder, and slid the letter in. The blades whirred, devouring the pages into thin strips. Celia watched quietly, no comment. She recognized her father's unwavering stance. Once trust was broken, it seldom repaired. When the machine finished, Adrian brushed off his hands, exhaling slowly. Let's finalize those new tower designs, he said, voice steady but subdued. We have work to do. Though the letter was destroyed, its message lingered a ghost of regret, a testament to how far they'd all fallen. Adrian had no illusions about returning to old illusions of happiness. The damage was done. At least she admitted her part in the fiasco. In that small way, it gave a sense of closure. Sunlight glinted off the gleaming facade of Cole Architectural's newest skyscraper, a marvel of steel and glass shimmering against the midday sky. It was the official unveiling, a grand ceremony with city officials, media, and prominent business figures in attendance. Adrian Cole stood on a temporary stage near the tower's main entrance, flanked by a proud Briar Ashcroft and a local city commissioner. Applause rippled through the crowd as a ceremonial ribbon was cut, symbolizing a fresh chapter in the company's success. Celia stood near the front row, snapping photos with her phone. She wore a crisp blouse and skirt, radiating a quiet confidence that belied her 17 years. When the speeches ended, she joined her father on stage, the crowd dispersing to admire the building's interior. Breyer approached, smiling. The press coverage is glowing. They're calling this tower the new symbol of Cole architectural's resurgence. The stock price jumped another 3% this morning. Adrian nodded. Thank you for your loyalty, Breyer. We wouldn't be here otherwise. She acknowledged with a slight tilt of her head, then stepped away to handle more logistics. Celia inched closer, gazing up at the skyscraper's reflective panels. It's beautiful, she murmured. All that glass. Feels like the old life and the new life colliding. Adrian observed the building's surface, which mirrored the city skyline in a sleek mosaic. Glass can reveal or obscure, he said quietly. But it's strong enough to endure if engineered right. Celia managed a half smile. Speaking of enduring, Miles texted me. He's finishing community service next month. He's uncertain about going to Mom's or staying in the city. He might want to talk to you. A flicker of paternal concern crossed Adrian's face. He can reach out whenever he's ready. He paused, an undercurrent of emotion stirring. I won't push him. I've learned not to force bonds. Celia nodded, then hesitated. He said Mom found a small marketing job. She's stable but lonely. She regrets a lot. Adrian took a measured breath. Some broken things can't be fixed, Celia. She studied him, that flicker of sadness in her gaze. Do you ever see a day you might forgive her? His posture stiffened. Forgiveness, maybe. But forgetting? Rebuilding the same relationship? He shook his head. Glass, once shattered, never returns to its original form, no matter how carefully reassembled. Celia touched his arm gently. I respect that, Dad. I just hope one day the bitterness doesn't overshadow everything. Before he could reply, a small group of reporters approached, cameras ready. They peppered Adrian with questions about the tower's design, the building's sustainability features, and Cole Architectural's new direction after the scandal. Adrian answered smoothly, an image of poise. When the reporters left, father and daughter stepped into the tower's lobby, a soaring atrium bathed in natural light. The floor was polished marble, planters of greenery adding warmth to the modern aesthetic. Celia pointed upward at the crystalline elevator shaft. It's stunning. You can see the city from all angles. Adrian gazed around, a quiet pride swelling. Despite everything, the company thrives. People rely on me, on us. That's all that matters now. Celia slipped her arm through his, guiding him toward the panoramic glass windows that framed a spectacular view of the skyline. The reflection of the city glimmered in front of them, merging with their own images, so father and daughter stood merged with the metropolis. She murmured, We did it, Dad. We survived. He sighed softly, a shadow of a smile forming. We survived, he echoed, but at a cost. A hush fell, broken only by the hum of elevator doors and distant chatter of guests. Then Celia turned to him. I'm proud of you, you know, she whispered, for standing by your principles and still saving the people you love. Adrian swallowed, blinking back an unexpected surge of emotion. Thank you, C. He glanced at the reflection once more, seeing a man who had wrestled with betrayal, fought criminals, and shielded his family from ruin. A life etched with cracks, but still intact. The glass before him remained pristine, a testament to an unbreakable facade built from lessons learned. He gently patted Celia's shoulder. Let's greet the rest of the visitors, shall we? She nodded, and they turned away from the window. Outside the tower, the city glowed with midday brilliance. Adrian stepped onto the sidewalk, ignoring the camera flashes. In that bright reflection on the tower's surface, he glimpsed himself alone yet resolute. The swirling chaos that once consumed him had passed, leaving him changed. Behind him, Celia was close, a tangible reminder that not all bonds were broken. Final image. Adrian lifts his gaze to the shimmering new tower, fresh wind carrying the promise of the future. The glass panels reflect his composed face, strong, solitary, and unwavering. A subtle smile touches his lips. This is the end of one chapter. Whatever lies ahead, I'll face it on my own terms.